This is a main river that the Alcan Highway follows south out of Fairbanks. This is the White River in the Yukon. Just wanted to give you an idea of the awesome width of the river's drainage. And it appears to be used each year, if you see by the very raw mud area way out there. This river in the background is the Donjek River, and the Icefields that we'll be panning to are St. Elias Mountains, of the Kluane National Park. Mount Steele and Mount Wood are two of 36 peaks which can be found within these icefield ranges that exceed 4,500 meters in height. This is in the Yukon, of course. Okay, now I'm going to show you what they mean in Canada by frost heaves and the attendant dits and ruts they make. We'll walk towards this right now. Now, what you're focusing on is, notice those little flowers up to the left there of the road, but notice that you're starting to see some water. This is not just a dip in the road. This is literally a sinkhole in the road. And if you'll notice the water there and look beyond that, you'll see that there are some others that are not quite so large. But I'd say the difference of this thing is somewhere around 5 or 6 feet. And if anybody ever hit this without knowing they were seeing it, I suggest they would be out of control. We'll go down and stand in this thing and you can get an idea. Yeah, I'm dipping down a little bit so you can see approximate height that I'm at. And the height I'm dipping down so I would match the height if I were standing at the deepest part of the little pool. Interesting, eh? This is my campground somewhere in the northern part of British Columbia. This forest, which I believe is known as a taiga, or taiga, I think it's T-A-I-G-A, is composed primarily of real skinny pine trees that look more stunted in growth than anything else. And that's caused by the permafrost just a foot or a couple feet or so underneath the ground, so that the vegetation, the trees and whatever, can't get much of a base to sink their roots in. So consequently they're undernourished. This is right along the edge of this river, and it's my hope that the river doesn't rise during the night from rainfall to the north. But I put a little post of rocks here right on the edge of the water so that I can get up in the middle of the night with a flashlight and see if the water's rising at all for any reason. A real sandy and narrow escape route here out of this area, and it's also through some kind of wet sand which holds the van but might not if it were really wet. This is one viewpoint in Muncho Provincial Park in British Columbia. The sun is shining miraculously today, And so all of a sudden you can see vistas, and also they have become rather grand as opposed to the taiga landscape of north of here for the last 300 or 400 miles. Okay, this mountain in British Columbia is a superb example of metamorphic rock. Notice the whirls and swirls. In all probability, this was at some point in time a sedimentary rock. That has been pressured over the course of millions of years into these various swirls and designs that you see. Look at that one there, isn't that something? This is the northern view looking south into Jasper National Park in Canada. This view pans through the northern entrance, if you will, of Jasper National Park in British Columbia. The rest of the day will be spent passing through this range from the northwest to the southeast. It's less cloudy today than it was when I came through a month ago, but it's not the spectacular image that the sun might offer. This is the outflow of Sunwapta Falls. Notice how it's cut this chasm, narrow chasm through here. And notice further on how the walls have been eroded away at various levels by the water over the centuries. Okay, here's a little more close-up of the falls. This is the Columbia Glacier as seen from the north looking south. You can see the various glaciers coming off the glacial ice cap up on top, which we can't see. Now focus in a little bit tighter. See, they're lost in the mist of the clouds up there. This, of course, is the Columbia Glacier here, this lower, flatter one from this perspective. Notice the lateral moraine now that we're focusing through. And then the last glacier flowing off the cap. Okay, we're now basically at the bottom of the glacier, not at the toe, that's way over there. But this is where the glacier used to be. All of this rock you see down here are prior terminal moraines. Now notice over here that we have a lateral moraine. You can see the knife edge of it, the top of it, coming down here. And notice, Eureka, there's another one coming from an opposite direction. And what would you suppose that's from? It's from the glaciers that used to come down through this valley, of which you can see two there on the left. As I shift over now, you can see the third one on the right. Notice also the U shape of this glacial valley, exactly what you would expect with a glacier. Now, given that there's a glacier coming here, a glacier coming here, where do you expect these glaciers went? Of course, they came together down through this area here. And while we can't see the U shape here, at some point in time there perhaps was one, or we could see it if we were further away. But again, all of this debris that we're standing on represents some kind of a moraine off of prior glacial flows. Now, looking at this mountain here, two questions. One, that ship, or a battleship for lack of a better term, that sits on top. What kind of rock is it? Which of the three kinds? Or does it include more than one kind? And what gives you evidence of that? Looking at this portion of that mountain, what would you say has happened to this mountain once you've defined what kind of rock it is? This is called the Weeping Wall. The falls, of course, stand out most, but when we look close at the wall itself, you can see that there are many places where there are no falls, but there is water on the rock. And there's water seeping down through rocks that causes rock caves.